In the last few months, I have booked over 600 high-ticket meetings for my agency, and in this video, I'm going to be breaking down every single thing that you need and the 5 steps that you need to take in order to book hundreds of meetings completely on autopilot for your online business as well, all right? So, step 1 is all about math. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to identify exactly what KPIs we need in order to be able to achieve the same result as me, in order to be able to get these literally over 30 calls every single week, okay? So, the way that we calculate this and what we need to look at primarily is the volume times the appointment booking rate, and that is going to equal the amount of appointments that we want to book. Okay, so the first thing that you need to know is you have to have a goal in mind. Okay, so let's say, for example, maybe your first goal is that you want to just book 30 meetings a month. Okay, so if that's your goal, what you need to do is you need to identify, right, what is the appointment booking rate you have. What an appointment booking rate is the amount of meetings you get divided by the amount of outreach that you do. Okay, so this is going to be for outreach specifically. So if, for example, your appointment booking rate is 1% and you want to get 30 meetings, then what you would do is you just do 30 meetings, right, divided by 0.01, which is 1%, and then you get 3,000 outreaches a month. From that information, you are going to know exactly how many outreach you need to do, okay? And if you want to put this on a daily level, so 1 appointment per day, that's 30 meetings a month, right? Then that would mean you'd need to do 100 outreaches per day at a 1% appointment booking rate to get that 1 appointment per day, okay? And you can essentially reverse engineer from this exactly how many appointments you want to get. Now, the second step of this process is actually selecting a platform where you are going to get the most success from, okay? So these are the main platforms that people use to do outreach. Obviously, there's different nuances. There's different ones that you can use, but these are typically the main ones that work the best, okay? So this is what you should choose typically if you are doing this, okay? So if you are targeting small businesses or you're targeting if you're targeting consumers, Instagram or Twitter or Facebook are typically going to work very, very well. And these are the average KPIs, the average appointment booking rates that actually come with these platforms, okay? If you are targeting B2B or medium to large size businesses, you're going to have you're going to be able to get a 1.5% appointment booking rate on average. The thing with LinkedIn is you're not able to send as much volume as the other platforms, which makes it a little bit more tricky. But a lot of the times these deals, when you're targeting B2B businesses, so this is why I say B2B2B, if you're a business targeting a business that targets businesses, and it's a little bit confusing, right? But you're able to typically charge a lot higher to those companies, okay? And if you're just targeting B2B in general, using things like cold email will work very, very well. The only difference here is that a lot of the times cold email can cost a lot of money. So if you're just getting started, this might not be the best path for you. And then if you were targeting brick and mortar businesses, you can achieve a 2% appointment booking rate here, right? Meaning you do 50 dials, you're typically going to get 1 appointment from that. Obviously, this can be better or this can be worse depending on your skill of actual cold calling, okay? Now, these are the main platforms. You should have some idea of where your niche is and what you should use in terms of your platform. Now, what you want to do is you want to define the platform acceptable KPI, right? So when you choose your platform, these are typically the average KPIs that I see on these platforms that are acceptable, okay? If you have anything lower than this, it's not really worth scaling, and it's better to just try and find these KPIs and find these appointment booking rates, okay? Then once you have these KPIs, right, these are your ideal KPIs, again, minimum, you're going to reverse engineer the volume you need to do, okay? So let's say, for example, if you want to get 5 appointments per day, okay, and you're targeting, you're targeting some business, right, and you're using cold email, right, to be able to reach out to them. So if you want to get 5 appointments per day, you're just going to do 5 appointments, right, divided by 0.005, which is 0.5%. That means you need to do 1,000 outreaches per day with a 0.5% appointment booking rate, okay? And now you know exactly how much volume you need to do, okay? Might seem like a lot, but we're going to jump into some different automation strategies, which is going to allow you to actually be able to send that amount of volume without getting banned and everything like that, all right? And this is literally, by the way, how some of my clients, once you actually have these stages in place, once you have the KPIs in place, and once you have a system that's able to predictably generate you this, you can actually book 100 appointments a month in just a couple months of actually running this thing, because it's something that's actually predictable and actually running in your business. So if you want, a lot of these KPIs, a lot of the time can be hard to find, and a lot of these automations to set up can be difficult to do at first without getting your accounts banned and things like that. If you actually want help with that from you can click the first link in the description, and it'll show you a little bit more about how we actually do that, right? But the next step is step 3, okay, and that is actually achieving the platform KPIs, right? So essentially, what this means is you need to actually go run this system yourself. You need to actually use these platforms yourself, and your primary goal to start is actually to get these metrics yourself. What that means is you're going to have to track all of your data. You're going to have to track exactly how many messages you're sending and exactly how many replies you're getting and exactly how many appointments you're booking from that. Because only then are you actually going to know exactly what your KPIs are. And once you achieve these numbers, you essentially become eligible for scale. Okay. And this isn't something that you can outsource because it's not something that's proven yet. You essentially have to prove this out yourself, right? Obviously, if you look at me, I'll give you something that's already proven, right? But the big part of this, right, is that it has to actually be a system. So what a lot of people do is when they're doing these reach outs, every single message is different and every single message is tailored to the exact person that they're outreaching to. And the issue with that, right, is the processes here that are like, this is basically a diagram of a system. I took this from Sam Ovens, but there's essentially three different things you need to have, right? You need to have the inputs. So the actual leads that you're sending to, you have to be able to have one repeatable process to get these leads every time. You can't be just scrolling around randomly looking for different leads. Like there has to be a system and a process that you have to have in place in order to be able to consistently get the same quality of lead, right? Then the actual messages you send, the way you respond to objections, the way you actually pitch your services in every single DM has to be the same, right? Because if you don't do that, it's going to be very difficult to scale, right? Because when you're trying to teach someone to do it, you have to basically teach them how to think, right? Which is a lot more difficult than just giving them steps to follow. And by the nature of doing that, to actually get someone to think exactly like you do, you're going to have to pay a lot of money for that. And you're going to have hire a higher skilled person essentially, which isn't going to be very profitable for you, right? So the goal is to make this a system where you can do the exact same thing every single time, right? This is why ads are so scalable, right? Because imagine if you had to record a new ad for every single impression that you got. That would be chaos. You would never get anywhere, right? So it has to be the same process every single time. And that way you can actually get reliable outputs, okay? And this has to be in the same environment. You have to have feedback through the data that you're tracking in order to continue to make sure that the system is performing within the KPI set here, okay? Now, once you've been running this system for a while and you've actually been able to achieve these percentages here, then what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to automate it, okay? And it's important, the second part is without sacrificing its integrity, okay? So what this essentially means is a lot of the time, when you go and do things like automation, right, the actual quality of the message goes down, okay? And when you do that, and if this has an impact on the actual process or the scripts or the actual lead sourcing or anything to do with how the actual system is run, these processes are going to be affected, and therefore the outputs are going to be different, and therefore the KPIs in here are going to get worse, okay? So when you go ahead and automate this, you have to make sure that the integrity of the system and the actual processes that you use are not compromised, okay? So in this My Reward, I've linked a whole bunch of different softwares that you can use depending on which platforms you're using. I'll leave those in the description if you want to access this My Reward. There's going to be a place to do that, all right? So this is the next step, and once you have this, you can essentially have the ability to be able to scale it, okay? Because once it's something that's automated and it's detached from your time, right, you can continue to increase the inputs and increase the amount of basically the amount of leads going through your processes, and therefore you will linearly scale the amount of outputs you have, right? Obviously, there does become some diminishing return to this, where eventually you're going to run out of enough qualified leads. Like you're not going to have enough inputs once you cap out your market on a certain platform, but that will probably take a lot longer than you will need to in order to actually get your goal of X amount of appointments per day that you decided earlier, okay? Now, step 5 is essentially the action items, right? So number 1 is you need to create a process. And again, process meaning it's the same thing every single time for finding high quality leads that are active on your platform in your niche, okay? And ideally you want this to be automated, or again, you're going to have to hire someone to be able to do it manually, which is just going to take a really long time, and it's going to cost you a lot of money, okay? And again, when you have this in place, you can actually just predictably book calls. And this trouble you're having with scaling the amount of appointments that you have, this is literally what I have done to solve that for myself and for a ton of other clients, right? And when you have this in place, you're literally going to be saying, you're finding so many leads that you don't even know where to start, right? You need a scripting structure that's going to actually resonate with your niche and get them to schedule a call at KPI without personalizing it for every single person. Because if you're personalizing every single message, right, you're forever going to be stuck in that in the actual day-to-day of doing it yourself, and it's going to be very, very difficult to be outsourced and very, very difficult to scale. And again, when you have this, you can actually book 30 appointments in 30 days on your first month of actually running this thing, right? Like you can actually predictably sign clients, even if you're just getting started, right? Even if you have an established business, like you're actually going to be able to do that once you have a system in place, okay? The next thing is you need to create a system, okay, to make sure that your accounts don't get banned or go to spam. So the biggest issue that I see a lot of the time with people doing cold email, people doing cold Instagram, people doing cold Facebook outreach, right, is their accounts start getting banned and then their entire system just breaks, right? Because the environment that they're operating in here just becomes ruined due to the fact that their accounts are going to spam, right? They're not even they're not even getting their message to the people that need to see it. They're not getting the attention that they need, right? You need to build an account setup infrastructure that actually allows you to scale, right? So a lot of the time where people will spend like hours and hours and hours setting up email accounts or setting up Instagram accounts and making sure they're all good to go, right? You need a way to actually automate this in place, right? Like when you can spend half an hour, right, setting this up and just get 36 email accounts ready to go and send, like things become very, very easy, okay? And then finally, you need an automatic way of actually sending out your outreach, which is what these platforms are for, okay? So hopefully this helps. This is basically everything in simplistic form that you need to be able to get to the point where you're booking these amount of calls. So I'll see you in the next video.